Well, thank you for joining me for the next 5 minutes. If you're not familiar with our Take 5 segment, this is where we take 5 minutes and give you a bit of a preview of what we're going to be discussing and looking at on the Sunday coming up. So the Sunday I'm referring to is the 23rd of January. We hope that we see you in person at 10 o'clock at Faith Church. If not, you can always reach us in terms of our teaching on our YouTube channel, Faith Church Martinsville. You can get there through our Facebook page or our website, www.myfaithchurch.org. Well, this morning, I'm actually filming here in our sanctuary, and over my, I guess it'd be my right shoulder, we have a cross. We've been walking through this letter to the Philippian church, and on Sunday, we are going to be looking at the heart of that letter. Over the past couple months, as we've been walking through chapter by chapter, verse by verse, and we're just now sort of turning the page in the middle a bit of chapter 2, we've been looking at Paul's motivation. And that's essentially what chapter 1 is. Chapter 3, and there's only 4 chapters in this incredible, short but powerful book. Chapter 3 is about the movement of the Christian life. This is where the Apostle Paul says, not that I've already obtained all this, but one thing that I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, right? We also see that chapter 4, it's about the marks of the Christian life. But chapter 2 is about the model. There's a heavenly model, and then there are 2 human models that are pointed to in chapter 2. We're going to be looking at the heavenly model, which is Christ. Everything that is proceeded up to this point that the Apostle Paul has written is coming and pointing to the various scripture that we're going to be looking at on Sunday. Everything that is written after what we're looking at on Sunday, and actually the following Sunday as well, points back to this. This is the heart of this letter. It is a resume in many ways of who Jesus is. Many years ago, there was a book that was written called In His Steps, written by a man by the name of Charles Sheldon. And it's a book of fiction, but essentially he was a pastor, and he challenged his congregation as well as himself to ask a very simple question before any decision was made in their lives. And the question was simply this: what would Jesus do? I actually read that book in college. It was a required reading. In the early 90s, there was actually a youth group, I believe it was in Michigan is where it started, took that concept of that book and made bracelets. And many of you perhaps maybe even have one or had one called the WWJD bracelets. What would Jesus do? Well, the fact is that is an incredible decision-making tool. What would Jesus do in every single situation? That should go through our grid. It should go through our filter. But even more, we need to back up and we need to address the question, not just what would Jesus do, but also we need to address this question: who is Jesus? Who is Jesus? If we get a great understanding of who Jesus is, that will definitely help us to understand what Jesus would do in his life. And so I'm going to strongly encourage you, either through YouTube or through our Facebook, that you will listen to the teaching, or even better, that you would be with us in person at 10 o'clock as we address this utmost important question. It's a creed. It's actually a lot of evidence that this was a hymn taken right from the writings of Paul, the scripture, that would be sung in the early church. It is a proclamation of who Jesus is that should filter into our minds and allow us to determine then what Jesus would do. We hope to see you in person. God bless, and have a great remainder of your day.